Thank you. I would like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2003. Do we have any speakers related to items that will be discussed in closed session?
There are no speakers.
Seeing none, the board will order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2003. Seeing none, the board will convene to closed session.
Okay, unmuted. Testing. Test.
I have to wait 30 seconds.
I know.
I usually leave this one.
That worked.
Test. There's some things I would like to say. They're all gonna sound hecka smart. Test. Hello, can you hear me? There's some things I would like to say. They're all gonna sound hecka smart. Test.
Okay, 1 minute. It's unmuted.
Okay, so testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. All I'm seeing is your little square now.
Okay.
Well, it should be because Clifford needs to screen share.
I am.
You're screen sharing.
So I stopped.
Go straight to the end.
Are you screen sharing?
I stopped.
So.
All I see on, this is what we see on Zoom.
Oh, man. So we see on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube looks good, but it's the Zoom.
Mind you, gonna tend to follow host view. Let's just, I mean, it's.
That worked.
Every time, whatever I just did work,
Yeah,
but it worked last time too, remember?
well, this is. I'm seeing the room.
Okay, in,
It says you are talking, because that's your mic.
but when I'm talking, does it pull up me up?
When you're talking.
No.
No, it's pulling the camera.
Okay, great, that's where we want it. I think we're good.
So can you give me permission? Can I unmute?
Yeah.
Test. Testing 1, 2, 3. Test. Okay, it didn't look, my view didn't change to anybody else. It stayed on the room.
Okay. And we're still good on YouTube, as far as I can tell. Okay. It's interesting how it's different every week.
Test. It didn't look, my view didn't change to anybody else. It stayed on the room.
the noise in the room and see if it pulls up.
Hello?
What we did last time was.
So
Speaker and gallery. But that didn't work a few minutes ago.
my view is speaker. That's what you have up there, my view is speaker, and then attendee view gallery, that's not what you have.
Right, but that's how we were when we
Oh.
were having the problems. And I was saying it's different every time because this is what I followed. So could there be something else? If I go back to that.
Okay.
Or not muted. This is where we were having a problem before.
Are you muted?
I'm unmuted.
Test, test, test.
I can see.
And I am, you're seeing the, what's going out. Is the boardroom.
Your audio is being broadcast to YouTube.
Who's you are?
This is
Can we unmute?
your microphone. Yes,
I don't have it on mute, is what I'm saying.
I know that, and we were hearing us talking on the YouTube. That's why we muted this.
So since we're trying to test, can we unmute that?
It's unmuted now.
I'm not following you. So if I talk over here, is it picking up this? And who's the speaker that we're viewing?
Right now, it's still.
Hey, never mind.
Harry, how you doing?
Good.
He's finished with half the program.
Yes.
You're getting the boardroom, John.
A little dusty in there, right?
Oh, speaker, because it's looking at my Zoom, so I have a speaker, even though.
Yeah.
So then we do gallery. Now I'm just clicking things.
Speaker for my view and gallery. And that works.
That's what we have.
Just wait 30 seconds. Yeah, you do this background.
Okay. That's how we were. At the start of this,
Oh, it just went on for you.
because I'm talking. As long as I don't talk, are we okay?
But the board is gonna talk. That's their mic.
Can you say something, Frank, please?
Testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. Welcome to the October 2nd board meeting, 3rd. Still 3rd. October 3rd. Are you muted on your Zoom right now? Okay,
Right.
I have you allowed to talk. What if I need? Oh, no, I don't have you allowed to talk.
Yeah, I don't have the ability to. I'm just in a. So that was
Speaker gallery.
get Zoom to work. What's gallery?
The thing is, we went to the such a bad. Over to gallery.
So we're talking still. And the microphone's on. Is that
Yes.
correct? So we still have that. Hold on a second, let's give it. A couple of seconds. So now that's right.
But why is it?
Gallery.
Switching back on occasion.
Gallery, now gallery is correct.
This- Shared screen, which is probably the- Maybe people just don't know.
Good.
We're still in the client meeting.
I don't know, because it went to full screen. As you go in.
That's great. Stop sharing. Oh, that's back to the-
For my, MVB, click speaker and click gallery again.
But I mean, I'm trying to minutes.
But. So you're not gonna be sharing your screen. You're
No.
only sharing your screen right now.
But I'm gonna be going. I wonder if that. That's all I need. It's in a meeting.
Test. I'd like to speak. Test.
That's the person, right? So.
Power? The power to hear isn't on.
The power to hear.
For that power strip on.
Okay.
Student.
Something's online. Sometimes has as well.
It's okay.
Oh, you can speak as well. So they may or may not be.
And the nature is 2.23. Yeah, all lowercase. New Haven 123.
Board will now convene open session and report out from closed session. Live streaming on YouTube will begin now for open session of Board of Education meeting. The role for YouTube live streaming may be found on the NHUSD Board of Education webpage. While the boardroom is undergoing renovation, the board will continue to record and stream the board meeting, but will be using different equipment that it normally does. If you're joining us online via the Zoom webinar, and you'd like to provide public comment for this meeting, you may do so by utilizing the raise your hand option in Zoom. Or if you're calling in, please press *9 and wait to be called upon. Community members may still provide public comments to the board prior to each meeting via the email at publiccomment@nhusd.k12.ca.us. There were no comments provided to the board for tonight's meeting via the public comment email address. I would like to remind the public that we will not be responding to questions posed by those making public comments. Relative to closed session items 3.1, 3.2, and 3.4, there was no action taken by the board in closed session. Regarding 3.3, in closed session, the board voted by a 5-0 majority vote and instructed district council to settle the matter of regarding Jewel Labs Incorporated, Altria Group, marketing, sales practices, and product liability litigation, Federal District Court for Northern District of California, case number 319-MD-02913-WHO, as against Altria Group, related to subsidiaries, companies, and officers, employees, and directors, and board members et al., up to the stipulated amount. I will now hand off the meeting to Vice President Kumar, who will preside over agenda item 5.
Thank you, President Nishihiro. Will the audience please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Samin,
Here.
Perez, here, Troy Mallory,
Here.
Rafe.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Here.
Kumar,
Here.
Ishii.
Here.
May I have a motion and second to approve tonight's agenda? So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Samin.
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
Troy Mallory,
Aye.
Rafe.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Kumar,
Aye.
Ishii.
Aye.
Back to you, President Nishihiro.
Okay, may I have a volunteer to read the land acknowledgement? Okay, trustee Rafe.
We want to open up this meeting by acknowledging with respect and love that the land we are on today is the traditional ancestral homeland of the Ohlone Chochenyo First People. We recognize and thank the Ohlone people as the original stewards of this land. Indigenous people must not be spoken about in past contexts as if they left on their own accord when the real causes were white supremacy, manifest destiny, and US colonization. By recognizing we stand on the occupied indigenous territory of the Ohlone people, We recommit ourselves to listen to Native leadership and stand in solidarity with people struggling against system of oppression throughout the world, past and present.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 6.1. How many speakers, how many speaking requests do we have for topics that are not on the agenda for both video conference and in person?
As far as blue cards go, we have one blue card.
How about online?
There are no speakers online.
Okay, to all speakers, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts today. Speakers will be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Speakers exceeding 2 minutes will be asked to conclude remarks if in person and will be muted if on video conference. As a reminder, the board's role during this item is to listen and will not be interacting or commenting on topics raised here. Please call the first speaker.
Okay, Brad Vaughn.
Hey, I'm Raghavan Subramanian. I'm part of the Mission Valley Track and Field Club, and I'm here to talk about the agenda that you had about the facilities use. We have been, I'm sure all of you know about Mission Valley Track and Field. We have been part of the Union City for more than 42 years now, and we've done a lot of all the kids that come in, we've been training them and giving them the kind of training that we give, and we make sure that all the we give them the best that we can. And all of us are volunteers. I'm a volunteer as a coach, and I did my training, I did certifications, background checks. We make sure the students are safe and can learn the best. And we have had 42 athletes go to the national this year alone. Every time we wear this uniform, Union City goes with us. We have Union City on the bag as well. So we make sure that we help the community, and it's free. So when we started discussing, when there was a discussion about the facility use, there was a suggestion on having legacy status for organizations like us that do a lot. Although we do have a lot of other children from nearby cities, because we are free, we do whatever we can to help all the kids. But we do serve this community that's Union City, and a lot of kids who move to high school to Union City just because of the athletic program that we have. So we would really appreciate if we can get something and continue getting this facility that we are using in James Logan.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no further speakers on this topic, we'll move to 7.1. How many speaking requests do we have for the for topics that are on the agenda for both video and video conference and in person?
Yeah, I apologize. I made a mistake. That was on the agenda. I think this was our only speaker period though. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are no further speakers.
Okay, and none online?
None online.
Okay, with that, we will move on to 8.1. The CSEA president report. Do we have a report from the CSEA president? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 8.2, NHCA president report. Do we have a report from the NHCA president?
Good evening, President Ishihara, Vice President Kamara, trustees, student reps, Dr. Thompson, district staff, folks in the gallery. Joe Couliangos, President, New Haven Teachers Association. Just a couple of things I want to mention in this ongoing conversation, including and collaboration with the district. It's really pleasing to us to have the establishment of the Special Ed Advisory Panel. That panel was a result, as you know, of a letter that we submitted to both the board and the district about our concerns about special ed programs and services. And as a result of that letter, the district did a response to us. We and Sarah put together a nice response to our concerns. That also led to the catalyst of putting together the Special Ed Advisory Panel, because one of the most important things we think we have to have is an ongoing conversation. So any kind of concerns or issues can be adjusted in a timely fashion. And that was one of the things that we mentioned last year. We didn't feel that that was happening. So I appreciate the collaboration on that from we and her staff to kind of get that going and look forward to how that can really move forward the service that we want to provide for special ed students at all sites. The other thing I want to mention too, again, in the collaboration conversation, I appreciate the reach out from the courtyard, Narayan, who reached out to me about letting us know, the union, the teachers union, that all these different construction things happening at sites may have impact on teaching. And so you want to get a conversation going to say, how can we get in touch with some of the teachers to kind of get some insight on if this type of construction is going on, is there something we can do to kind of get a better way to circumvent any disruption in those kind of areas? And so this is the first time that this conversation of inclusion has happened. So we really appreciate that going forward. And so recently I got some of the different things that are going on construction wise, and I'll put that out to the reps there at those sites so they can be a person of contact for both the courtyard as well as the principal to work together to mitigate any kind of concerns about the teaching environments at the sites because of that construction going on. And then the last thing I just want to mention again, I want to appreciate the district supporting our Racial Justice Committee at NHCA for our involvement at the recent Filipino American Educators Conference that was held here in Union City. It was a very well attended and very rich discussion in the different things that affect education. We also featured a student panel from James Logan Ethnic Studies, and that was well received from the participants. That has a far-reaching conversation. We have participants from New York, Canada, Chicago, as well as some, of course, here in the West Coast. So again, I think it's another support for that. Just to let you know, we have another culinary activity this Saturday, which is the celebration of Filipino Heritage Month at IVC Middle School. It's a nice, enjoyable afternoon from 3 to 6. So please come and join us in that kind of event. Look forward to that. And of course, coming up again this month is another LGBTQ awareness workshop that again has been in cooperation with the district to provide some kind of a opportunity for all staff, both the teaching, CSEA and NHAA, to come and get some more awareness on different things, how it affects our students that may be in that area of understanding and concern. So thank you so much.
Okay, great. Moving on to 9.1. Thank you, President Quial. 9.1, which is the annual update on district projects, and update on potential board bond measure for November 2024. Staff will now share an annual update showcasing various projects throughout the district. Additionally, and in conjunction with Measure M funded projects, staff will provide an update on Measure M financial implementation, as well as efforts and a timeline for bond measure initiative for November 24. Ms. Heldman, you have the floor.
Do I need a mic? Can you all hear me?
I
I have a very low voice sometimes. All right. He nods. Okay, so good evening, Superintendent Thompson, President Nishihira, and board trustees and staff. So tonight we will be sharing with you an update on our projects. This is our annual update in terms of all the projects happening throughout the district. I will actually turn it over to our Director of Facilities, Narayan Naidu. And after that, I will be transitioning us over in terms of sharing with you the update in terms of a bond measure initiative for 2024. So let me work this through. So before I turn it over, one of the big questions that we get is what establishes a project? You know, how does something become a project? So these really are the major categories. If we have an active bond program, those are the ones that were approved, projects that were approved by the board based on the promises we made to our community. And then we have an ongoing need, what we call deferred maintenance. Many of those are actually, by the time we get to spring, that's a culmination of things that are a result of our facility inspection tool, for example, or based on the highest need that we see or the repetitive needs or the most prevalent needs that we see in our work order system. So it's things like that. Those become deferred maintenance projects that we try to do them in the summer when the students are not around because it's easier for everyone. And given the fact that most of our buildings, if not all, are at least 40 years old, there are things that happen and that we have to attend to. And then there are others that are highly contingent on funding. A lot of times when we do a project here, and we know that in 2 years we need to do a project here, we leverage those economies of scale because we're going to be touching that ground anyway. So there are things that we try to do in terms of what projects we have going on in the docket. And then there are things, not very many of them because of funding issues that would be nice. We try to address those. Obviously, we want to have the most optimal experience in terms of teaching and learning for our staff and our students. So that is essentially the major categories in terms of what makes a project. How does a project get created? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Naidu.
Okay, thank you. President, Superintendent Thompson, President Nishihara, Board of Trustees, staff, and students. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Barely, sorry. I'll start with the completed projects. The completed projects are basically Alvarado Elementary. I mean, the list is very self-explanatory, and I'll go into the details. So this is the kinder area at Guy Manuel. We had a lot of problem with the tree roots and the kids. We could foresee an hazard in future. So it was a very proactive approach on our part to change the whole field into a synthetic field, keeping in mind of being sustainable, educating sustainability in the district. So we have the synthetic turf in place. So that's how it looks now. The next one is Tom Kitayama Elementary School kinder area, kinder yard play structure. What we are doing is we are standardizing the play structures now, conforming to the code requirements, and also making it more pleasant instead of having this all-weather track material poured in the play area. We are using special mats which are tested and also aesthetically sound and giving an identity to the school. This is Hillview Crest Elementary School. We changed the flooring. We had a lot of complaints about fleas out there because the neighbors are harboring a lot of stray cats and all these, and a lot of dogs being taken around the field. So there were a lot of fleas, and the teachers were complaining a lot. We tried our best to control it, but could not. So the only alternative was to change the flooring because the existing flooring was the carpet type, and we got this footboard type of flooring, which is low maintenance, environmentally friendly, and more the longevity is much better with the high of warranty. It's almost 20-year warranty on that. And this is what it was before, and this is what it is now. Pioneer Elementary School, we have these various site works, but it's called various site works because of our submission to DSA. We didn't want to just put one scope in particular, so we did fencing upgrade and we put a trash enclosure, a new trash enclosure conforming to the requirement of 3 bins, and that's what it looks like now. This is Alvarado Elementary School. The paving was done. The paving was depleted. It was not a good sight to see. There was a lot of risk letting the kids play out there. So we did the total paving of the whole schoolyard, of the whole school campus, basically. And the same applies to Alvarado Elementary School. It's the second before and after. On the right hand side is the after. And Hillview Crest, we did the same with new markings and all this. And by the way, the teachers and the staff, the principal and the teachers are very happy for all the changes being done to the school. For them, it's a total new look, and they all appreciate it. Hillview Crest, this is the same thing. This is the dugout at the baseball dugout at James Logan High School. And then to balance that, for equity purposes for girls, the athletics director opted for a ball pin, new ball pin, so that's what was done at James Logan High School. These are minor projects we did, driveway patching and all this. The next one is construction phase. These are the list of projects which are under construction. And there are few projects which are listed here, which are already completed, but not financially completed. So substantial completion has taken place, but not financially completed, or DSA certification has not been done. So it'll be repeating in here as construction phase. For example, the Pioneer Elementary School and the ESC upgrade, the boardroom upgrade. Projects in procurement, this is the list. That means procurement here means bidding. Tom Kitayama Elementary and Guy Manuel Elementary maker spaces have been approved by DSA. We had a meeting with the principal at Tom Kitayama. We are planning when to bid and getting the work done. It's a bit of a complexity out there because both these sites, the upgrade is within existing buildings and the adjacent classrooms are in place. There'll be teaching activities going on. That's why I had to extend my hand to Joe to talk about how we can control all these noises and keep the classes going without any disturbance. Central kitchen relocation. Today was the bid opening. We got good set of bidders, almost about 9 bidders for the first time I'm seeing here. They bid on this project, and the bids are within budget. The lowest bid is looking good, but there's a protest period from now till 2 days of protest period. So Friday it expires, and then only then we'll know who is the lowest bidder, and then we'll reach out for a contract, and then in the next board meeting we'll be submitting for approval. Playground structure. We have the design, we have the structure in place. We are storing it, the structure at Courtyard, but there was no way we could install that because we were overloaded with the paving and we couldn't get the paving and the structure done at the same time. So we have to wait till next summer. Makerspace at Alvarado Elementary School. This we had a design, it was all approved, but there was a change in the functionality of makerspaces that took place because of the collaboration between Makerspace and Media Center, being the essence of what the intent has been throughout all the elementary schools. So we had to change the location of the Makerspace, and it was found that to use a current portable, which is the Media Center now, to convert that into a Media Center and a Makerspace. It's a big portable. And we had changed, 5 or 6 meetings with the staff, the school, and we worked on the layout of that. But the glitch here was, and is, when we were looking for the as-builds, we couldn't find the structural drawings. It's neither at DSA nor in our archives. So once we don't have a structural drawing for our existing portable, we have to carry out destructive testing and recalculate all the structural elements of the building. And we had 2 meetings at DSA. Finally, we managed to get through, and then we had this direction from DSA to carry that out. Plus, there's a lot of complexity in that because we also have to look at the AD aspect of the portable at the moment is not in compliant with the current codes. So, and the fire alarm codes and all these, we have to merge and match the current codes. So there's a lot of soft work going on, which may not be very obvious. And I have been discussing this with the principal, keeping an update. But to comprehend sometimes is difficult because there's a lot of technicality involved at the moment in this project. But we are aiming to get this done as soon as possible, probably next summer. Not a promise, but we'll try. It all depends what we get at DSA, how long it takes for approval. Project in assessment phase, we have district-wide painting, summer deferred maintenance. We'll be painting a few schools again in summer. Second field, we have the layout of it, the drop-off zones. And I've reached out to the principals, and the principals have been reaching out to the community. And it's not finalized. None of the drop-off zone design has been finalized, is being discussed. And once I get the feedback from that, and then finally we'll go back to the drawing board and try to fine tune it. But the track and field is pretty standard. The location has been addressed, and it's the design is progressing pretty well. It applies to both the schools. District-wide video surveillance and security system, we got the first draft. We have distributed the layout of the cameras to all the sites. And as of now, we have touched about 5 or 6 schools, and I'm having meetings with all the school sites to confirm and to get approval and get their views of where they want to place the cameras. Once that is done, it'll go back to the drawing board. Bridging document will be created, and then it'll be bid out for an RFP. It's a design build project. So the success story here for this video surveillance system is that Logan is done. 125 cameras. And it's not complete. It's not listed in the completed project because we haven't finalized the financial aspect of it, financial closeout. Also, we are still waiting for the as-built drawings from the contractor. They have 30 days post occupancy or post usage, and they're still within time. We need the as-built drawings and all the warranties and guarantees from the contractor. Then only we'll release the retention and the project will be closed. But as it is, we had 4 trainings for the school staff, and the principal seems to be all excited and happy about it. I think they busted twice, 2 cases which happened there, and they used the camera to catch the students who were messing up. The solar system, the solar canopies at Conley is complete. PG&E is coming to do the final connection on Thursday this week. And so PG&E is also coming to Kitayama to do the connection, and once that is done, that's ready to go. It's completed. This is part of the energy infrastructure project. The 2 solar canopies were part of that. Delaney Eastern Elementary School, construction in progress. This is a difficult site because the upgrade is within the building where we have adjacent classrooms where they're teaching and learning taking place. So the contractor is working mostly swing shift to avoid noise and all this. Now and then they work during the daytime. But we try to control dust, noise, all this so that no one is affected. This is what it looks now. Hillview Elementary School makerspace is taking shape pretty quick. And that's what it is. What you see on the right is more obvious. The way all will be done and completed by December. So come January, it'll be ready for occupancy. From Kitayama, this is the drawing, the rendering for makerspace. Relocation of central kitchen. As I said, we had a bid opening today. We're ready to go after 18th. ESC boardroom, great. Everything, all the contracts are in place. Contractors are working hard. There had been a lot of work done here, which may not be very conspicuous or obvious, but a lot of trenching has taken place. Relocation of electrical network plus the new low voltage network being installed. Also, dice has been taken away. Lights, new lights are in place, all LED lights. New ceiling above the DS is already installed. The only glitch in this project is that the construction is controlled by the AVA equipment, which is the most important, the bigger scope. And all the other scopes are dependent on that scope. So basically, AVA is the nervous system of the project. So the lead time has been the difficult thing to address. And as of now, it's coming in this last week of October. It'll take a week to install, hopefully, and by November, hopefully, you all could be having a meeting there. This is how it looks. I think a lot of people have seen it. This is district-wide energy infrastructure project. We have changed, the lighting aspect is completed. We have changed it 8,410 lights at James Logan High School, Cerros, and Kitayama Elementary. So the lights on the top are the old lights, the lights at the bottom are the new ones, LED lights. And this is how it looks now. And on the left is a picture of the HVAC units. We have changed 87 HV units as of now. The work is in progress. Projects that are on hold, shade structure, we have a DSA approved design. We got the shade structure, but we had the bids which came out very high. It was for time post-COVID, and then it was unreasonably high. And then because of the way it was located, we couldn't get it done in summer, so we have shelved this, but it's on hold, but we're using the same shade structures for CCMS and Alvarado, IBC. And we are trying to incorporate that in the track and field project where the drop-off zone will be. And the students will at least have the shades to wait for the parents when they come to pick them up without being exposed to rain or whatever. District Innovation Center on hold, district-wide market. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from folks on the board?
No, you answered mine, so.
I had two questions, but you answered one already, so thank you for sharing this. So multiple parents have brought up safety issues at AES and IVC, the drop-off area. And this is specifically on Freddie between Horner and Smith. And I understand having two schools right next to each other is a nightmare, but it is a safety concern for sure. So I was curious, is the district looking into any creative solutions to address this?
Part of the Measure M allocation was an amount allocated for AES. So that work will include a design in terms of how we can improve the front entrance, because unless you know where they are, you actually won't find them. And part of that would be dovetailing into the drop off. The way they are situated is a little challenging because they are in a corner. So that work will be happening in terms of assessment as part of that allocation that they were given. So yeah, that would be considered in terms of a project that would be happening very soon.
I see, thank you. And what's the timeline for that?
Well, we have yet to start the assessment part of it, and that includes some feedback and input from the site itself and other partners that would play a big role in terms of what that looks like and what really, the challenges that we are faced with.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on the first part?
Trustee Gonzalez?
Yeah, I just want to bring this up here because I've read an article about turf using recycled tires and having high mercury in some of the new turf coming out. Is there a way? Anyways, I know you can't answer this right now, but maybe ask who we getting our turf from, or if we can look into that. Is this true or?
The curve, we have MSDS for all these materials, synthetic materials. So based on the MSDS, there's no threshold for mercury. But we can still find out because there are different companies which provide this turf. There's one field turf which has been commonly used in schools. And I know I've done that a lot in San Jose. We went through this. But that's the one we intend to use here, but we'll find out. Okay.
So we're looking
It's a concern. This is definitely a concern. We'll find out.
So we'll be looking into the materials and the trend.
The MSDS of all the materials, the turf, the synthetic, the fiber, plus the old, the shredded, what do you call it, the tire grains. I mean, that's what it is because that's the black stuff we see. Yeah. Well, fine. Thank you.
I noted the comment and we'll look into it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, you want to go ahead and move on to the
Yes.
bond?
So at this point, I'd like to, it's a good segue with regards to reviewing where our bond Measure M implementation, where we are with it. Good segue in terms of recapping the other pieces to Measure M. So this is a bond authorization given to us by our voters in 2014. On the screen were the project groupings that were approved back then or shortly, a few months later. In implementing those groupings, we had 4 issuances of the 125 million. The recent one, of course, was this past year for the last series, which is 20 million. In terms of the overall summarized budget, staying with the same groupings of projects that were approved by our board, this is what that looks like. Now, the column D really is a culmination of everything that we have completed, going back from, the onset or the get-go up until the 22-23, which we just closed, the financials that we just closed. Column C includes the things that we already have purchase orders for. So those are obligated, those are encumbered. Combining those of the 125 million, we have obligated about 92.7 million. Column E is another one to pay attention to. There are projects that were approved that are still in the implementation process. They are not completed yet. Those are designated and restricted to those board approved projects. So when we look at we are, I would say in 2 to 3 years, we would be fully implemented in terms of the bond Measure M implementation. Let's see, what else did I want to say here? One of the things that I wanted to point out, for example, and there were changes in terms of the need, but we stayed within those groupings that were board approved. As an example, technology, the need for technology had changed drastically because of COVID, right? We had to up that. Fortunately for us, there were savings in the solar line item. So those are the kinds of things that budget was realigned. But we stayed within how those groupings of projects were approved at that time. So this is a highly summarized level of our Measure M, the 125 million, and I wanted to share this with you. Now, the district is studying or looking into the feasibility of a 2024 bond. So if we do go for 2024, that would be 10 years since the last authorization, which is longer than normal. Normally, a bond program, depending on the size of the district, would go from between 6 to 8 years. We had 2 at least years of COVID where things kind of, the focus kind of changed and switched and pivoted, whatever we called it. So we are on the 10th year. We are depleting that that authorization, but at the same time, we are completing those programs. So this is a working timeline with milestones in terms of where we are and what we would be looking at should the district go for a bond initiative in the 2024 election. And that concludes my presentation.
Very great. Any questions or comments for the CBO?
I have a comment.
Vice President Martin?
I just wanted to say, I love how you present information. It just takes a few minutes of glancing and it's very clear. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you for your really hard work. Appreciate that. Okay. All right, moving on to 9.2. On August 29th, 2023, the governing board held a study session to review the district's facilities use process and current fee structure. Staff provided information and the board received public comments and provided staff with input and directions on potential changes to the process. In tonight's meeting, based on discussions and directions received at the board study session, staff will share draft materials for the board to consider. The board may provide staff with feedback and direction on these materials, but it will not take action tonight on any new fee structure or process changes. In the interest of engaging the community throughout this process, a public hearing is also scheduled for Thursday, October 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Educational Services Center for the public to comment and provide feedback on those proposed changes. Ms. Helband, you have the floor.
Thank you. So item 9.2 is a follow through from the feedback and the discussions or directions from the study session held on the 29th of August. So in the board packet, you have several attachments. Except for the attachment labeled recommendation for legacy groups or legacy group process. All the other ones are actually included in the full facilities handbook. That's also one of the attachments. We extracted those as separate attachment for ease of discussion in tonight's meeting. So before I move on, these are the things that I would be highlighting. Rate comparison, we looked at what we can. It's not always easy looking at other school districts' websites because they're not as good as our website to find this kind of information. Little plug there, but we did find some, and we were able to gather that information. So we wanted to show that the variances with regards to the rates. We were able to pick only facilities that are commonly rented out across the board with regards to the districts that we were able to find. Based on feedback from last time, we have some revisions in terms of how we would classify those different groups. A rate structure that has some proposed changes. And a big discussion from the August 29th session was regarding groups that are partners, quite frankly, and what do we do in terms of proposed changes relative to them or any implication that would affect them and how we can create a process for those groups. We were requested to also show some financials with regards to facility uses and rentals. And of course, the full handbook, which is one of the attachments. So these were the districts that we were able to find. And again, we could only pick facilities that were used across the board that were as common as possible. So what are they? A gymnasium, a classroom, and a stadium. So what you would see here is New Haven really is lower with regards to the group twos, because we only compared at the time, we only had 3 groups, group twos and group three, and group 3 really were the, I'd say the commercial rate or the for-profit groups. So these were the comparison that we were able to put together. Let me see, New Haven is the blue. So in many cases, when you see that darker blue of the shades of blue, that is us. And as you can see, we are, in some cases the lowest, in some cases the middle of the pack. These rates were haven't changed from the predates all of us actually. So anyway, this is the comparison that we wanted to share with you all. Can I go back to, okay. Is this the order of things? I think so. Okay, so in terms of the revisions and how we categorize our groups, we shifted based on the discussions on the 29th. We shifted from 3 groups to 4 groups because of there's a group of organizations, nonprofit organizations that were kind of caught in between. And yet they are our partners. They provide educational benefit and they do serve our students and our families. So that is why we expanded this group to be able to better delineate the different categories, if I may, or classifications in terms of where they fall. This also, not that the first classification didn't follow Ed Code, but this actually is more clear in terms of the different designations according to the Civic Center Act or the Education Code. So you have group 1 are our school programs. Group 2 are the group that I was speaking to with regards to, these are our partners. These are the groups that serve our families and our students. And then you have group 3 that have nothing to do with education, but they are nonprofit. And they are within our community. And then we have group 4. These are your, well, I call them the commercial or market rate, and they are not nonprofit. When you see a yellow highlight, that only means that it was not in the previous version, but a revision between the August 29th and now. Can you scroll up a little bit, please? So like, for example, for group 2, we now have group 2, which is, like I said, an expansion of what used to be 3 groups, and now we have 4. We're designating that for the organizations that I was speaking to earlier. So this is the proposed rate structure. The white section was the old structure. The yellow section, as you can see, is now expanded to 4 groups. In terms of how these rates are driven by how we are categorized them in the previous exhibit. One thing I want to call out here is these didn't change, except for, can you scroll down just a tad bit, please? I mean, scroll up. Except for group 4, they are being assessed utility fees. Group 1, 2, and 3 are not. Okay, because those are nonprofit organizations. Group 2, make sure I say this right. Group 2 rate, no, that's it. Group 3 rate are like the homeowners association, the senior citizens group. But group 2 rate used to be our old group 2. However, they are actually getting a break because they used to pay the rates that you see on the group 3 column. So those are the youth groups who may not or will not meet legacy criteria. That's what they would pay, which is actually 20% lower than what they used to pay. Recognizing that they still are within our community and, you know, potentially serving our youth. So the one thing I want to point out here is that group 4 gets utility fees. They actually are the ones that went a little bit higher. Everyone else is the same. What used to be group 2 is now getting a 20% rate compared to the old rates. So the yellow are what are being proposed, comparing it side by side to the white columns, which used to be our old fee structure. Okay. So this one, it details or spells out, you know, the proposal, staff's proposal in terms of the process for acquiring legacy status with regards to the groups that we were discussing at the last study session. This is, you know, this captures much of the discussion then in terms of creating the criteria, a timeline for the application process. And could you please scroll up? And oh, and once, you know, they go through that process, after review, subject to approval, we would be, we are proposing to have some agreements or memorandums of understanding with each of those groups. So that is the recommendation in terms of legacy status for the groups, the organizations that are serving our community. I think the only thing remaining, one of the requests that I received at the last meeting is to show some financials with regards to facility uses and rentals. Keep in mind, though, that for the cost, those are not allocated. In other words, there are no, you know, we have 1 meter for a school site or for a building, and we don't prorate it based on the meter readings, but and therefore, you know, utility costs are centralized in terms of districts. So utilities, for example, I'm just going to go through 22-23. That's 2.8 million. There is not a way for me to allocate that with regards to by site. I suppose I could by site actually because of the meters, but in terms of the usage of facilities due to rentals, that's unallocated. That is not allocated in that manner. Custodial supplies as well as a centralized cost. So the 2 yellow lines in the bottom are the costs, but they are not allocated, meaning they are central to the district. It's everyone. It's the whole district. But when we look up in the cost, in terms of what we get, what we receive for facility rentals, that's the line that says income. As you can see, it's like an EKG, if I were to put this in the graph. Well, those were unusual years because of COVID. We hardly had any facility usage during those times. So I'd say 22, 23 would be our first normal year. And so those are the numbers that we are looking at. We do, in terms of labor costs, meaning the custodial cost related to the use of facilities, that also is delineated because that's, we pay that on a time card, it's by individual person. So that can be teased out easily, unlike custodial supplies and utilities. But this is what I wanted to share with regards to income versus cost, dealing with facility uses and rentals. It's not here, but in the packet is the full version of the handbook that has all of those different attachments.
Any questions for CBO? Yes, Vice President Kumar.
So maybe can I go in order of your presentation, if that helps? So Exhibit A, I really like the group classification. I like that they're in accordance with Ed code, and it also shows that the district is showing support for community partners. So that's really great. Thank you. Exhibit B. So I see that the processing fee is still $25 per application. And I know last time I had requested that be waived for group 1. So again, so with PTC, for instance, every time, so with the regularly scheduled meetings, I get that it's one application for the year, but every time they have, a book fair or art night or mathnasium night, and a lot of these times, these are not planned 1 year in advance. So it's usually planned closer to the date because it depends on volunteers. So every time they're going to have to pay a $25 processing fee. Again, these are our community partners, and that quickly adds up. They're doing this for our students. So if the rest of the board agrees, I'd like to see that application fee waived only for group 1 at least. I don't know what others think of this, but those were my thoughts. I was also wondering if that does go ahead, can we make that a line item so that it's clear that it's, if we all agree with this, that it's 0 for group 1 and 25 for 2, 3, and 4. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then the restroom fee, I remember last time I shared that I thought it was ambiguous. I still think it's ambiguous. So this is my interpretation of it. So if I am having a PTC meeting, the restroom fee is going, and this is during regular, up to the 10 p.m. and there is a custodian on duty, it's still going to be $50 per hour for a 2-hour meeting. That's $100 for restrooms. Is my understanding correct? Or is that waived for group 1?
For group, could you scroll up a little bit, please? For group 1, it would be if it's outside of the normal operating hours.
So if the meeting happens before 10 p.m., there are no restroom fees?
No, because we have staff on duty before
Right.
10 p.m.
So to me, that's not very clear. So maybe consider again having a line item for restroom, because it seems like it says no charge, but then when I scroll down, I see minimum 2 hours custodial overtime charges for a weekday. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's
Okay.
me, but
I'll look into that
yeah.
some more.
So what else did I have? So the legacy groups, I think this was asked last time, but the 70% NHUSD attendance, is that honor code, basically?
It's not on our code, but it has been it has been a requirement even with regards to our facility.
Yeah, I think I wasn't clear. Honor code, is that how we're
an
going
honor-
to? Yeah, not.
Well, how do we check that, right? We're not quite there yet, but at some point I did mention at the last meeting that, it could be an honor system because, depending on the volume, I mean, and mechanism that we might be able to check on that. It could be not checking everything, but maybe sampling of participation or applications of their participants. So something like that.
I
So
see.
we'll get back to you in terms of more detail
Okay.
on that, on how the mechanism for that is.
I see, okay. Then I have two last things, I promise. One is the income versus cost that you shared. What is that labor cost based on? Because I assume the regular custodians that they're there till 10 PM, so that's not part of this.
Mhm.
This is all outside of.
Yeah, those are outside of normal operating hours at our schools. And when it's outside of that, then it means it's above and beyond their normal week. So it would be paid either a time and a half or a double time, depending on if it's a Saturday or a Sunday or a holiday.
Let's see, okay. And that's all of that, it's
Yes.
outside, okay.
And that includes the statutory benefits,
I see, okay.
which is over 30% now.
And then in the handbook, I think this is page 3, under important reminders. Bullet point 3 says applications for use of grounds or facilities must no longer be, it should not be longer than 6 months, and every 6 months it has to be renewed. So I was curious why this was put in place, because to me, it just seems more reasonable to align it with the school year, because mostly, PTC and boosters use it for the duration of the school year. So why the 6 months?
A few reasons. Trying to align the different calendars, and we rely on the high school calendar. We rely on okay or green light from the school site administrators, because they are the ones most familiar with the usage of those facilities. And part of it too is we recognize, and I could be wrong, but we recognize a season usually is about 4 months in terms of the athletic programs. And so we thought, okay, 6 months then would cover a season of those programs. So we put that there. If we allow, are you asking if why don't we allow longer than 6 months?
Well, my understanding currently is that it's not 6 months, right? You could apply, so I know with PTC, for instance, we used to apply for the whole year. But it seems like what we're moving toward is having to reapply every 6 months. Is that
What
correct?
we're saying is
From
you
this.
can apply for longer than 6 months, but that would be a different application. A lot of things might change within the 6-month period. And then the first thing to remember too is our priority is our own school programs. I mean, we don't know what we might need it for 6 or 8 months ahead of time. So we're just trying to make room so that we can actually dedicate that first and foremost to our own school or district programs. And again, trying to think of, well, the season is usually 4 to 5 months. So we thought that was a good time to cut it off and separate the applications.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I do have one question. So with regard to the drafting of the MOU, any idea who bears the financial cost of actually legal counsel of doing that? As well as what do we feel the process, or at least what does the staff recommend the process be to work out the groups that actually establish MOUs? So it's in terms of like what type of back and forth or collaboration.
So we will initiate that process from the district side. We will have a draft of the different components that we absolutely have to have, the terms and conditions, insurance requirements. We will obviously, it would be a joint effort. We're not going to create it and approve it without getting feedback, including from the group. So that's even with any contracts that we do, we actually try to work it out so that what we think may be reasonable or feasible may not be, because they know the technicalities of what they deal with regards to their programs, and we may not know all of those things. So there will be an opportunity to work together on those.
So to be clear. So to be clear, then it wouldn't just be the district drafts it and we push it to our user groups and say, okay, you sign it. There's going to be a back and forth in terms of.
I would say there will be some, to an extent that we would want to know certain things. Like I said, there might be parameters that we are not aware of, for example. But it will be something that the district would initiate and lead that work.
And ultimately come to the board for approval.
Okay.
So I have a question for the president. So in terms of process, I know we're not voting today on anything, and there's going to be a hearing, and then we're going to see. a new draft maybe. So what happens now, if there are requests that one of us has made?
Mhm.
Are we voting on those?
Well, if the issues that you have, that you're raising are not in the draft that's up for approval, then you can either kick it back to staff, or you can vote no, or you can, so that's the point of the process where, oh, that line item thing wasn't caught. Kick it back to staff, or table it, or vote it down.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
So as a reminder, there is a public hearing for this topic on the 19th.
Okay. Okay, outstanding. All right, so moving on to 10.1. Okay, so this is a resolution declaring the governing board vacancy and timeline for appointment process. Some background, trustee Shwan Mallory submitted their resignation from NHUSD Board of Education effective October 31st, 2023. The board must now select the process and timeline to fill this vacancy. Attached to this agenda are the following pieces of material. The point is that right now is a time for us to discuss anything that we want to discuss with regard to how we want to move forward. There are a few things that as a board we need to kind of figure out. So for right now, the timeline process that's attached, there's a TBD on the interview date. We'd like to, as a group, figure out what that is. We also have to put together a screening ad hoc committee to determine, and this is going to be an ad hoc committee of 2 board members. And their job is solely to verify the qualifications of all the applicants. We also want to entertain any questions or comments with regard to the application form. And also if there are any questions or concerns about the resolution that will be coming up later on the agenda for action. Let me see if I've got everything here. So with regard to that, does anybody have any questions or concerns about the resolution as it's currently posted? Okay. What about the timeline? If everybody can kind of bring up their timelines. The big area that has not well, actually, let me just open this up. Are there any questions at all about the timeline as it's currently drafted? Yes.
We're just the process here, so we're gonna vote on these. And what are the items here? Are we going straight from the agenda? So resolution, we'll vote that up, and then timeline. And then I don't see a number 4, but that must be the 2 board members, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ad hoc committee is 2 board members. And the only thing that ad hoc committee is doing is making sure that the applicants that come in, that they satisfy all of the objective criteria according to our board policy in terms of what makes somebody qualified to be a board member. So these are things like residency requirements and things like that. So it's not super subjective. It's like, do they live in the area? Do they not live in the area, etc. Okay. So everybody, kind of give the process a look and see if there's any big red flags, and then we can start moving towards answering some of these questions. All right. So,
Question.
yes.
So we could have a new appointed board member as soon as our December meeting?
Well, the idea here is, well, according to law, we have basically from 10/31, which is the date of vacancy, we have 60 days to fill that. Okay. There's a couple considerations here, and one is CSBA is going to be, toward the end of November, beginning of December. So ideally, we would have a new the new board member sworn in and ready to go to CSBA this year. That's kind of what's driving the timeline. If we don't, we'll still be statutorily okay for 10/31 plus 60 days. So, and that's kind of those are the assumptions that were built into this schedule. Okay. if there's not any questions on the overall process, maybe we can attack the special board meeting to conduct applicant interviews. Right now, we have a TBD between 11/7 and 11/14. This would have to be a special board meeting that's noticed. And you know, we've got a range here of 11/7 to 11/14, knowing full well that the election is on 10/7, which is our normal Tuesdays. So are there any recommendations for days that might work for that? Yes, trustee, Vice President.
So from the timeline, it seems like we would let applicants know on the 4th of November, is that correct?
No. Oh, 4th of November.
We would inform them whether. Is that correct? Because we're doing the screening between. the
Yeah.
30, correct?
Yeah,
So between the 4th of November and the 7th of November, that's a very short time. I'd like to give applicants a longer time frame.
Okay.
Between knowing that they will be interviewed. to
Okay.
The date of the interview, so
okay.
I would lean closer to.
Yes, Dr. Hobson.
Just a point of clarification to your point, Vice President Kumar, the range for screening is, that would happen on one day. So if you, to address your concern, you could, for example, do your screening on 10:30. And then we could notify the applicants on even as early as the 30th or the 31st. That gives you a little more time of notice, because I agree that if you were to conduct your screening on the 4th and then expect to do the interviews on the 6th or the 7th, that's too tight.
Right.
So those are just ranges, and
Right.
I would recommend front loading the screening and maybe back loading the interviews. That would give you
I
more
see.
time.
Right, and then 7th is also election day,
Mhm.
just to put it out there.
So that's a consideration, right? All right, well, I mean, if it's assuming, okay, so is there well, why don't we start here? Why don't we start with putting together the ad hoc committee? And see if the two board members who make up the ad hoc committee can commit on a date to actually screen. It should be one day. Who amongst, okay, so 10:30. Okay, so trustee Sean Mallory is not seated after the 31st. So who would like to be on the ad hoc committee? Okay, so it looks like we have two volunteers, Vice President Kumar and Trustee Gonzalez. Are there any objections or anybody else who would like to? No, doesn't seem to be any objections. All right, with that, I guess we have our ad hoc committee. Okay, so between the two of you, do you have screening dates that would work out for you in between 10:30 and 11:04?
10:31.
10:31.
Halloween.
Does that work for?
No.
Do you have any recommendations, or I can maybe throw one out and you guys can say it?
The sooner the better. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Okay.
November 1st.
November 1st is what day?
Oh, you can do the 30th.
That's a Wednesday. We can do it 30th,
So 10:30,
Monday.
Yeah, that works.
okay, so 10:30, we have the ad hoc committee. And, all right, so 10:30, that means that we can actually. Okay, so then 10:30 plus, how much time do you think would be good between the applicants being notified that they qualified and the interview? Like, you want to give as much notice as possible.
7 to 10 days.
7 to 10 days, puts us
What
at
others think.
7, 8, so 6, 7:30. How about 11:08, which is that 11:08 over Wednesday?
Mhm.
11:08. Does that work for the rest of the board? Because yeah. Okay. So 11:08 for the interview date. Okay, and with regard to time, my general feeling is sometime around, because people have to get back from work. So I would say probably between 6:30 and 7, probably. Are there any objections for 6:30 to 7 in that time frame? Okay. Okay, so let's just call it 6:30. 6:30 start time on 11/8. Okay, so
I'm sorry, what was that date? November what?
November 8th. Actually, before I just check something quick. Make sure there's nothing glaringly. I'm just checking my calendar real quick, just want to make sure that I don't have any. Okay, 8th. Oh, November 8th. Okay, I'm fully open, so. 11/8 interview day. 10:30 is ad hoc screening. Okay, let me see if we got everything we needed out of this. Okay, any questions with regard to the application? Does the application seem like it captures the information that we need?
Do we need, I'm sorry, do we need a vote on?
We'll vote on that. We'll package it all together in the action item. But right now, the work that we're trying to do right now is I'm trying to formulate what the motion is going to be when we get. to
All in
action.
one.
It'll be all in one, yeah. Okay, so any objections with regard to the application? Okay, let me check my list here. Make sure we got everything. Okay, so. Okay, so we got the date, the committee, application form. Oh, the one thing that I don't think I have an answer to is the way that these things generally work. Is board member or board members give the same question to each applicant. What is the board's feeling in terms of how do we want to go about crafting those questions? Do we have any recommendations in terms of process to be able to establish that set of questions? We can do that in open session. I think we have to do it in open session. And I'm just wondering the time and space to do that. We might have to call a special meeting between now and then to actually craft those questions. Yeah.
So one option would be for you to think of questions you would want to ask. You can send them to me.
Okay.
I'll put them together, and then what we can do is at the start of the interview process, we can have the candidates sit in another room and you can discuss them, make any modifications. And
Okay.
then we can do it then. That's one option for you. You could
Okay.
maybe want to start the meeting at 6, or if you want, or we can start at 6:30 and
I see.
do it that way, but that's an option.
Okay. Does that sound like an agreeable process? So we'll get there at some point before the actual interview starts. And then we'll finalize the questions. Everybody here can send questions to Dr. Thompson. We can go through and curate the questions prior to the meeting. Yes, okay, yes, Vice President Kumar.
So I have a question. So since we're 4 voting members, what happens in the event of a tie?
We vote until we have a 3-1 or a 4. Yeah, then it'll be a late night if we have a tie. Yes,
On the exhibit A for the timeline. I'm not seeing any indication of which parts of this timeline are open to public.
Hmm.
So, is it safe to assume that all of them will be open to the public, or can we maybe amend this exhibit to say which ones are open to the public so that people, if they're interested, can, watch the interviews or?
yeah, my feeling is all of this is public. And let me see, let me go through this real quick.
The only part that wouldn't be required would be the screening process, because it's an ad hoc committee with only 2 members. It doesn't, I mean, you
Yeah.
could make it public, but it doesn't. It's not.
WhatsApp audio.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess we could. I mean, there's no reason why that
We could
we could publicly, I mean, there. But I guess to trustee Sean Miller's point, I mean, is there some way that we could be more clear about what is public and what is not?
Absolutely.
I don't think that the ask was necessarily that everything is public. It's just, I think the ask was, let's make sure that we know what is. public
Yeah,
and what is
if
not.
this is, if we're gonna approve this tonight and this is going to be the document, then it should indicate, which parts of this process that the public are invited to.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that people will be interested and, obviously we should have full transparency as to the process and people should know that they're welcome to attend and observe
Okay,
the process.
We can do that, absolutely.
okay, great. Good call. All right, so I think we are all comfortable with, let me see, is there anything that we haven't nailed down, Dr. Thompson?
I think you got it.
You got it all. Okay, so when this comes up comes up for action, on 12.13, that motion will have all those details that we just hammered out. Okay, yes, Vice President.
I had one more question for anyone who knows the answer to this. There's someone who reached out from the community who was interested in this, but they currently serve on the SSC of their school. And they wanted to know if they could continue doing that.
Mhm.
Seems like it would be a conflict of interest, but no.
I have a point of view on that, but I think, yeah, because it just seems like one is a subordinate. Well, you could approve SIPSA at one and then approve it at another level. It seems like it could be a conflict. So I would probably say that they would need to relinquish their post on SSC before they got sworn in as a school board member. Is that, you got it?
We're getting a legal opinion on that.
Okay.
I don't have it yet.
Okay. All right, fantastic. Well, if there's nothing further on 10.1, we'll move on to 10.2. Required quarterly reports regarding complaints filed under the Williams complaint procedure. Quarter one for 23-24, as required by legislation enacted as part of the settlement of Williams versus the state of California lawsuit, the Board of Education must receive for information only a quarterly report indicating the number of complaints received related to 1, sufficiency of instructional materials, 2, emergency or urgent facilities conditions that pose a threat to health and safety, and 3, teacher vacancies and misassignments. Staff has submitted the report to the board. Staff has submitted this report to the board and will also be filed with the Alameda County Office of Education as indicated in the report. The district has received 0 complaints under the Williams uniform complaint procedure during the first quarter of 23-24. This item is submitted to the board and is for information requiring no board action. Okay. Moving on to 10.3, items from the board and superintendent. Who would like to start?
I can start.
Yes.
So at James Logan, we have Spirit Week next week, as well as Loganland, with our homecoming game and rally on Friday the 13th and homecoming dance on Saturday the 14th. We had our 926 Cultural Fest hosted by the Ethnic Studies and Social Justice Department, which went very well. Juniors are taking the PSAT on October 17th. And I'm actually working alongside Dr. Thompson about establishing a district-wide student advisory program.
Okay. Trustee Charles.
So at Conley, we have finals week. Next week is from the 11th to the 13th. And each day will be modified, which means that there will be dismissal at 12:50. And then student of the month was rewarded, and our culinary class has made chocolate, caramel and cracker treats for them. And then we also have our Day of the Dead event on November 2nd, and our parent meeting is this week on Thursday to plan for it. And then also we have the Conley store up and running, and the school makes back about 10% of our profits. And then we have our next hike coming up on the 18th. And then we also have a Ohlone College internship field trip on the 25th. And then we also have Spirit Week at the end of the month, on the last week of October.
Okay. Trustee Schwann.
I don't have much of an update other than I'm very much looking forward to being at the Mutt Strut on Saturday. I've been asked to judge, so as a dog lover, I gleefully accepted and I hope to see you all there.
Okay, trustee Rickett.
So, other than like, Mudstrut is coming up on October 7th at, like starting at 8 AM. So you're all most welcome to come and join us and it'll be a lot of fun and like they have Mr. Polk is the judge and Mel, like, no. That's it. Mel will be the judge. It will be nice having lots of people there. Thank you.
Okay, trustee Gonzalez.
Yeah, over the weekend, I went to Coyote Hills on Saturday for a hike. My wife is a part of the Bay Area Regional Ethnic Studies Collaborative. It's put on by the Alameda County Education Department, and it has teachers from all over Alameda County. And the most teachers active there are the New Haven teachers. There's a lot of folks from our own district that are part of that collaborative for ethnic studies. But what's cool about it is it's this group is putting together a curriculum about local history, Native American history, and my wife is part of that. That's something she's passionate about, and I've always loved Coyote Hills, and this time went with authentic Chochenyo First Peoples giving their perspective, because the land has never been developed. It is in its natural state for thousands of years, and just the acorn, the some of the local foods and the local plants, the tule, the process of it was very insightful, and I took my son. So that's what I did over the weekend. Saturday for the comedy night, and I know somebody's going to mention it, but my father went in my place. My son couldn't stay out that late. And lastly, what I want to talk about is when I moved back to the Bay Area after almost 20 years in LA, I came back because I didn't want to lose. I would have regretted losing family. I don't regret leaving a promising career behind, but I regret if I would have lost some family before they passed away. And absolutely no regrets. And so I asked my 76-year-old dad over the weekend, I said, are there any wishes or regrets you have in your life? And he said, I wish I was closer to my parents. And this coming from the closest sibling out of 6, he said, I wish I was closer to him. And so I say all this is because you should tell people you miss them often, you care about them, you love them before they're deceased or gone. And so I want to say that I'm gonna miss Trustee Schwinn Mallory, and tell her before she is gone how much you mean to our district, our community, and what you contributed before the last meeting. I'm not going to wait till the last meeting to tell you that. Just the who you are and what you contribute, all the layers and dimensions of who you are. You are a mentor, and you mean a lot to us. And I just want to give you just one example, a recent example. When we were sorting out and trying to figure out how you're going to finish off your term, because that was all pending, and Superintendent Thompson was advocating, looking into that. Still, we had a job to do, and which was our evaluation, and you brought us some. You still kept advocating and pushing and asking those tough questions, and for your constituents. despite your biggest advocate for keeping you on. And that's integrity. You did that because integrity who you are. So although you know, you love being a trustee and you're in that position, and you didn't want to leave, you said my integrity will not allow me to compromise who I am. I'm going to keep advocating for my community and pushing those tough questions, even if it cost me in my position. And so that was just a huge integrity sign. And it just, as a mentor, as someone on the board, I definitely commend you for that. Very, very impressed by that. You know, it's let alone find someone with integrity in politics, and you exude that, though. And I'm very proud to serve with you on the board, and I'm definitely going to miss you. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Kumar.
Those are some very warm sentiments, and I share most of those. My updates, my chat with your trustee every month has been going great. Special thanks to our NHTA president, Joe Angeles, and our communications specialist, Mr. Victor, for sharing my flyer. It was very helpful. Thank you. I attended the fun run at Alvarado this past week, and I saw Dr. Thompson there too. It was really fun. Those kids have so much energy. It's amazing. They start off all excited, and after a few rounds, they're like, but it was amazing. This weekend is very special. We have multiple events. We have the Mud Strut, as Trustee Rafe shared. And then NHUSD has 2 events in celebration of Filipino American History Month. We have one from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. by the Filipino American National Historical Society. And then we have one from 3 to 6 p.m. that's by the Filipino American Society of Education. These are both at EMS, IVCMS, my bad. And we hope to see you at one of these or maybe all of these events. That's it for me.
Okay, so this over the past few weeks, myself and a couple of the trustees, Vice President Kumar, as a part of our roles on the New Haven Schools Foundation, we spent time talking to various school organizations like school site councils, parent teacher groups, about what the foundation does, and trying to increase awareness, and also to get more folks kind of engaged with the foundation. I spoke at Hillview Crest, at Emmanuel, and also at the Latino Parent Advisory Committee, which was actually it was a great presentation. It was a great turnout. And I think ultimately what came of it is that the Latino Parent Advisory Committee is going to be forming a scholarship committee to award to a Latino students at the end of this year. Also, in response to a request made by Darlene Crittenden from Easton, I visited the Easton campus for a site walk a couple of weeks ago. It was great to talk to all of the different teachers, understanding the needs in the classroom, as well as understanding the impact of class size. When you have a really big class size, you have a fair number of different reading groups that helps that kind of hinders a teacher's ability to stretch across different groups. The highest class that I visited was 31 students, and that was in 5th grade. And most of the ranges were between 28 and 26. In speaking with a couple of the teachers there, they said that even the difference of 2 students would make a big difference in their ability to engage. So that was very useful, and I thought it was very helpful to gain that perspective. This Saturday, 10/7, I will also be at the Mud Strut in the morning, and then in the afternoon or in the early afternoon, I will be going to IVC for the Filipino Heritage event, where I will be introducing a panel of the Filipino American Lawyers panel at IVC. So pretty busy, and that concludes my report. Dr. Thompson.
All right. Well, a lot going on, as you saw. Those of you who weren't able to attend the NHSF Scars on Stage event last Saturday, that the comedy show there, I was really impressed. It was the kind of show that you would expect to go to the Punchline or some other place and see. So if you get a chance next year, if they have it coming back and you like comedy, you got to go to that one. It was really, really well done. So that was fun. And Saturday, as you know, we coming up, we've got the starting at 10 a.m. and all the way through 6 p.m. We have at IBCMS the Filipino History Month event that we're sponsoring and collaborating with PASE as President Q Angeles mentioned, and also FONS, the national group. So it should be a great day there. And then, of course, you can start the path of Metstrut, as you know, that's fantastic. Support our schools foundation. And we also this Thursday, we have Lita Mayers, our Teacher of the Year, being honored at the county at the Performing Arts Center in Castro Valley, where she'll be one of the teachers in the running for the County Teacher of the Year. So cross your fingers and wish her luck. I was able to interview her yesterday for an upcoming 40 questions episode. So that was the highlight of my week. So good luck to her. And with all of that, it's probably a good thing we don't have school on Monday. Our schools are closed Monday. District offices are open though. So if anybody needs any services, we are here. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So moving on to 11.1, a report from the Communication and Advocacy Committee. Vice President.
So we met this a couple of weeks ago and we had a good discussion about our resolution process based on input from the board. We reviewed the process used by Brentwood Unified. We think it may be a good fit. It's a good model for New Haven, but we do have to have some changes relevant to our district. Staff is working on that. Our next meeting is November 9th, but I think we talked about moving it to the 8th. It still shows up as 9th on my calendar. Because the 9th is the day before.
I think you're right. I'll have to take a look at my notes. We'll get some clarity on that. So we were shooting for the 8th, is that right? Okay. Yeah, that's.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Kumar. All right, moving on to 11.2, report from the Finance, Technology and Facilities Committee.
We're meeting on the 10-10.
Meeting on 10-10. Okay.
10. Yes.
All right, moving on to 11.3, report from the Policy Review Committee.
Next meeting is November 16th.
Okay. And there's a bunch of stuff on consent. Right. Yes. Okay, 11.4, other committee reports. Vice President.
I have a report from NHSF. Our PTC SSC presentations are going on in full swing, as President Nishihira shared. It's been a great experience. Stars on Stage was very successful. It was wonderful seeing a lot of members of the community. It was really nice that they came out and supported our students. Mudstrut Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon at the Masonic Home. And Diamonds in Education, the gala the planning has begun for that. Our next meeting is October 23rd on Zoom.
Okay. And may I add to that?
Yes, please.
So one is the foundation board had requested that they come to this board to provide a presentation similar to what they have been doing at all the different school sites. So on consensus agenda items, I will be requesting that staff agendize that for an upcoming meeting. Okay. All right, moving on to action items now, 12.1. May I get a motion and a second to approve resolution number 0112324, board trustee absence from a meeting due to hardship, authorization to pay. Trustee Rafay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Okay, moving on to 12.2. May I get a motion and a second to approve resolution number 0152324, acceptance of Energy Commission's California Schools Healthy Air Plumbing and Efficiency CalShape Assessment and Maintenance of Proposed Grant Award in the amount of $1,806,330.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to 12.3. May I get a motion and a second to number 1, approve resolution number 016 2324 declaring governing board vacancy and timeline for appointment process. 2, assign an ad hoc committee of Vice President Kumar and Trustee Gonzalez to convey on Monday 10:30 to ensure that applicants meet eligibility requirements. And 3, establishing an open board interview set for November 8th at 6:30 p.m.
So moved.
And the application.
Oh, that's actually in the resolution.
Got it.
Yeah, sorry.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second discussion. Okay, for this one, I'll do a roll call. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Like the entire board.
Yes.
Samir.
Aye.
Perez. Aye. Schwinn Mallory.
Aye.
Buffet.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Kumar.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye. All right, moving on to 12.4. May I get a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding with California State University's Cal State Teach Program, October 23 to September 26.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, motion carries. Moving on to 12.5. May I get a motion and a second to approve a memorandum of understanding with California State University's Cal State Teach Program for student interns for October 2023 to September 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. 12.6, may I get a motion and a second to approve a memorandum of understanding with Artful OT World for the 23-24 school year?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, 12.7, may I get a motion and a second to approve the 23-24 comprehensive school site safety plans for each school site?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, 12.8, may I get a motion and a second to approve the 23-24 revised LCAP and clarifying questions?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to consent agenda items. Are there items from consent that any board member would like to pull for a separate vote? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve items 13.1 through 13.35?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to 14, no items were pulled for consent, so we're skipping 14. Moving on to 15.1, assessment of government procedures and protocols. Any comments? Yes. Yes.
I think there was one agenda item that had to deal with money.
Okay,
I don't think our student trustees should vote on this.
okay.
And I can pull up that item. Maybe a board, a roll call on that one.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right, any other comments on governance?
It was, sorry, 12-2,
12-2,
the grant award.
okay. All right, maybe we can take it up to governance, but yeah, duly noted. All right, board consensus, are there any board members who have any requests of staff? Yes, Vice President, come on.
So I have this written out in the format that the board approved, and I can send that to staff later. But for the purposes of this request, I'm just gonna speak.
Sure.
So there are many parents, specifically from Kitayama, Easton, Pioneer, and Searles, who've been requesting for a debate, after-school debate program at their school site for elementary schools. Logan has a robust forensics program, as we all know, and their director had also shared that having a feeder program would be very helpful. We are all aware of the benefits of debate. And one of the goals of our new strategic plan is to provide students with enrichment opportunities. So this fits in perfectly because the community requested for an after-school debate program, and this fits right in with our goal. I'd like staff to evaluate Fremont Debate Academy. It's a nonprofit that was started by students at Fremont Unified who are now, they went on and got their degrees from Berkeley and they have tech jobs now, so but they still do this. It's powered by passion. This is the program that runs at Fremont Unified. And at the last board meeting, they were unanimously given the go to implement this at FUSD. So my request is for staff to just evaluate the program and see if it's a fit for our school district.
Okay, any questions from staff?
Sounds like an exciting opportunity.
Any concerns? Do we have consensus? Okay,
Would you still like me to send you a written request in the format?
No.
This is only fine.
If you have, you sent me the one document already, but if you have anything else, please send it. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
okay. I did, anybody else? No, okay, then I will do what I mentioned earlier is I'm just requesting that we get the New Haven Schools Foundation's calendar for a presentation to the board with regard to just giving their presentation based on what they've been doing in all of our school sites. So
That's good. Yeah, I'll reach out to Helen. Yes.
Yeah. Do I have, do we have consensus? Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's see here. Seeing no further business, we're adjourned.